Purpose powerful enough will make you unstoppable.
And we are live. You are watching the Canadian Real Estate Channel. You've seen me here. You've seen a few of my videos, and I wanted to have this opportunity to share a little bit about myself. We have special guests. We're going to have an amazing conversation. So if you are tuning in live, go get yourself some coffee, go get yourself some vodka, go get yourself some beer, go get yourself some water, popcorn, and sit down, relax, throw it on the big screen, because not only am I going to share a little bit about myself, I'm going to bring in a special guest. I hear, and Peter is in the background here, but we have someone that's going to take over this channel for the next month. It's going to be incredible. There's more coming your way, and so stay tuned to the Canadian Real Estate Channel. Subscribe, hit the bell to get notified the next time we're doing a video, because this channel, especially now, for a lot of you guys that are investing in real estate, as you know, July 13th was a very special day where interest rates now, we were expecting 0.75 basis points. Now we're at 100 basis points. A lot of people have ran scared, right? And a lot of investors are just no longer investors. They were just part-time investors. And this for me is go time, baby. And so I was built for this. I was built for times like these. And so I wanted to get an opportunity here, and I want to thank everyone involved and everyone here supporting. And if you guys have any comments or messages, or put the comment down below, we're going to make sure we can get to your questions. But I wanted to share a little bit about myself. I came to Canada as a refugee from El Salvador. I was in two civil wars before the age of 9. Landed in Vancouver, BC. I grew up as an immigrant here in Canada, trying to learn the language. I had trouble integrating into the school system. I never fit in their box. And for whatever reason, I had become frustrated, and at 15 years old, I dropped out of high school. And I also left home during that time. And for me, that was extremely difficult. And I had a lot of dark moments, a lot of dark times in my life. But we've all had that. I mean, everyone watching this right now has had a dark moment in their life, a moment where they said to themselves, like, why me? And what changed everything for me, from living on the streets, being, someone that had no confidence in myself, I became a father at 17 to this little girl. Her name is Talia. She's 27 today. And that was the catalyst that changed everything. I went and got a job, went back to school. When I went to school, and then trying to have a job after school, and $5 an hour, and was not enough to raise a family. Basically, what I did was I started a business, started selling clothes, jeans and T-shirts from my locker. Eventually, I turned that small little business into a nationwide business with stores all across Canada before the age of 21. And I was making a lot of money, millions. And I thought that was it. I thought I had made it. The issue was I had no financial education. I had no financial literacy. And so when the tide turned, when the market shifted, when there was a market correction back in 01, when it was 9/11, and people's buying habits changed. The internet, more competition. And so for me, um, I was very vulnerable. I only had that one business, even though it was a national wide business, but I was very vulnerable. And so what ended up happening was I almost lost everything. So I'm 21 years old. I got millions of dollars. And now I'm 24. I'm negative $1 million. I remember one day I was coming out of one of my stores, and there was someone panhandling for change. He's asking me for change, and then I realized, like, geez, this guy is worth more than I am, right? I was negative $1 million. This guy, is worth nothing, but I'm negative $1 million. And so, I was really depressed, and I almost lost everything until I decided to educate myself. And I said, something's got to change here. And I started to read books, Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Think and Grow Rich. And those were like gateways to other books, hundreds of other books, biographies on successful people, wealthy people. And what I realized was that all the wealthiest people in the world, number one, they all had this investor mindset. And going back to 21 years old, I had all of this money, but I was very much a consumer. I didn't respect money. I had a bad relationship with money. I would take dumb risks with my money. I was not I didn't think of the future. I didn't think about reserves. And so when things changed, it almost took me out. And so what I ended up learning was the mindset of the wealthy people, where the money has to continue to grow and continue to um, work for you. I also learned that the wealthiest people in the world have multiple streams of income. And so for me, in my business, back at when I was 21, I only had one stream of income. And so the second that market got hit, I almost lost everything. And so I said, I need to build a second or a third stream of income. But what was it going to be? I didn't know anything about anything other than my clothing store. I was in my early 20s. And so as I continued to do my research, as I was continuing to do my research and continuing to read and educate myself, I realized that the wealthiest people in the world own real estate. I realized that the wealthiest people in the world are wealthy because this advantage that they have with business and real estate, it gives you an advantage over the 96% of the people. And none of these people that I had read about were talking about their duplexes and triplexes. They were talking about big commercial deals. And so, 23 years ago, that's when I started investing in real estate. And ultimately, I got into multifamily from the very beginning because it just made sense to me. I was a business person. Imagine having a business with only one customer. Doesn't make sense. And so this idea that you can have multiple customers within one apartment complex, multiple people paying down that mortgage, it's economy of scale. And so that made a lot of sense to me. And this idea that you can spread the risks, you can spread the risk amongst more units, that made a lot of sense to me. And then especially for me in my early 20s, where I couldn't really qualify for a regular mortgage, I'd figured that I would allow the building, the asset, to do the qualifying for me. Because as everyone knows, if you're into commercial real estate, we're talking about 7, 8, 9, 10, 15, 20 units. The lender is looking at this as a business, and they're more looking to qualify the building. They'll take you into consideration, but no longer does the debt to income ratio come into play. And so for me, that was extremely important, and why I started to level up from the very beginning. And so by the time 2008 came, the next market correction, I was ready. I was ready to go. And I experienced something really magical where, before 2008, anybody and their grandmother was a real estate investor. everyone wanted to invest in real estate. We used to have these networking events, and this is before Facebook and online, but these networking events were standing room only. And then after 2008, no one cared about real estate. Money left the industry. Money just disappeared, right? It was hard to get, money after 2008. Now, of course, Canada didn't go through a market crash, like a real estate market crash like the US, but there was definitely a correction here. And very specifically for multifamily, you couldn't get any funding. That private money that's everywhere right now, that will all disappear because people get scared. It doesn't just disappear, but just people are scared. They're holding on to it. And so what I learned was that number one, there's market cycles. And when things tend to dip, this is when you have to take action. And so we took massive action, buying deals with agreement for sale, vendor takebacks, trying to figure things out. And so we managed to grow the portfolio to a multi-million-dollar portfolio, $200 million across Canada, 600 doors. And we've had a lot of fun. And for the most part, 2017, 18, 19, we were expecting a correction, right? We were already set up for it. But what happened in 2020, April of 2020 was better than a correction. It was just like this window of opportunity that a lot of people that I know took advantage of it, because obviously I can't help myself. If you've subscribed to my YouTube channel or you're subscribed here to the Canadian Real Estate channel, you're going to be up to date and you're going to have your finger on the pulse when things happen. And so that's what happened in April of 2020. We all took action, and millions of dollars were made between April and August of 2020. And now, and the reason I'm sharing all that with you guys is because we are now in the very same situation where everybody is running scared. And this for us, for me, my students, and everyone that's involved, it's called hunting season for us, because there's going to be massive opportunity. And we are living through a time where we are seeing the biggest wealth transfer in history. So wealth is transferring hands right now as we speak. And we are living, this is historical times. And so that's why I'm excited. I'm excited to talk to our guest. I'm excited to have this conversation. Peter, is Alec back there?
Hello.
What's going on?
Hi, I'm Alec.
What's going on, man?
Well, it was really interesting just listening to you tell your story. I was reflecting on the first time I heard your story, the multiple times since then that I've kind of heard different parts of it and gotten more context. And it was making me reflect on my own story. Obviously we're very different, but I think in a lot of ways we're really the same. Like all people are kind of the same in a lot of ways. We have dreams and ambitions and like our motivation. And for me, like I was a professional musician for a long time. I remember being in high school and my house was the place where everyone came over after school and we would stay together. There'd be people in the backyard throwing football and people playing a half broken piano and drums and just talking and all kinds of stuff. And it was really important to me. A lot of my friends, I would consider us very intelligent people. And we would talk about philosophy, and we went to a Catholic school. We talk about religion. We talk about science. And what I noticed was a lot of the fire that was in us at that time started dying when people decided to go to post-secondary education. They felt like they had to. It was their obligation. Their parents had put them in a situation where they had to invest years and years of their life. And I say invest, right? Because what is the return? That's what they're all looking for. But years and years of their life. And I felt I don't want to do that. I spent my whole childhood thinking, I'm going to go to university. That's what smart people do. I'm a smart person. I did end up going to university, but I dropped out. And I actually dropped out because one of my professors knew that I was playing music professionally. I was running my own events. I didn't even know I was an entrepreneur. I didn't even know what the word entrepreneur was. I just wanted to sing songs because I wanted to change the world. And music was one of the things that changed my world the most. So I just went into that. I spent 8-10 hours a day playing my guitar and writing songs for over a decade. And going into a bar, my friends, we were sitting there. Man, I wish we could play at that bar. And I just walked in to the owner. Hey, you're the owner, George? I want to play here. And he said, great. 3 Fridays from now, it's you. You just make a poster and you can have it. And I went home and I'm like, okay, I guess I got to make a poster, and I'm using Microsoft Word to make this. Canva didn't exist back then, right? Microsoft Word. And I'm taking pictures and dragging and putting my band name, calling my friends. Okay, you have a band. You're going to come. You're going to play music. There's 5 bands. Maybe we should charge $5. And I remember that night I went home with $600 and I paid everyone. No one was expecting to get paid. I was 17 years old and it broke me. There was no going back at that point. I got a taste of freedom. I was in charge, right? And for a long time, I was fighting with this idea of selling out and what does it mean to be an artist and what does it mean to create on earth and to be human. And what I was encountering when I was meeting these people who wanted to capitalize on my talent and capitalize on the talent of the peers that I had brought around me, the people that I was surrounding myself with, was I don't want to be the product. I want to be the person who's creating the product and who's bringing the product to the public. And I remember having a conversation at one point in my life, it must have been 5-6 years ago, where I was being presented an opportunity to really get involved in the music industry in a deep way for a long time. And I was looking at the terms and I thought, this is ridiculous. Why am I making pennies on the dollar when I'm the one doing all the work? You don't get vacations. You're working every single day. You're singing songs. And I realized at that point that the people who ran the world and changed the world were investors. And I didn't have millions of dollars. I didn't have negative $1 million in debt at that time. I was living very frugally. I had spent time with Buddhist monks and they were spending $2 a day to eat 3 meals. They had the highest standard of life of people I had ever seen up to that point. It was incredible how happy and fulfilled and free these Buddhist monks were. And I thought, okay, I can live my whole life really well. I thought that I was living on the top of the world and I was making $8,000 a year, Alfonso. And it's incredible now. We're walking through these buildings, 1,000-unit buildings, hundreds of millions of dollars, just in the past couple of years, since meeting you, we've been able to get millions of dollars of assets under our belt. We have over 1,700 acres and we're developing, and it's just incredible to think of the shift. But your story really made me reflect on what it was that made me get into music. What was my why? And what made me decide that I wanted to be wealthy and I wanted to shift from a cultural influence on people to an actual infrastructure influence. And I was reflecting on, maybe you've read this book by Walter Isaacson about Steve Jobs. And there's many ideas in that book that are fantastic, right? The reality distortion field is one of them. But there's a part where Steve Jobs is talking about how his house, right, which was a prefab house, right, created the family dynamic because of how it was designed. There was the bedrooms here, then the kitchen in the middle, then the living room. So the kitchen was the heart of the home. And I had an epiphany at that moment. Like, you can create communities and you can create environments that force people to change. And that's one of the driving factors for me in becoming a developer and acquiring these multifamilies, right? Of course, our company is called Home Group, and it stands for Heaven on Mother Earth. And we've had, countless conversations, you and I. And I think it's really a beautiful opportunity to be able to talk to you in front of these people that are going to see this. Could be a timeless conversation. Let's see what comes of it. But I really want to talk about the why. I want to talk about, what you can do with your why and how you can expand on that, when you reflect on what's the real reason I'm making these decisions, and what's the real reason that I want to move forward in my life.
Everyone should have a why, and a lot of us, we get confused. You said you're an artist, right? When I was young, I used to consider myself an artist, right? It's because everything is about the art because we care so much. I remember my stores, there was an experience that I wanted to give people, and the last thing on my mind was money. The money came as a result of me wanting to give an experience to people, and when I started to shift and I became more intentional, where I can have art and make profit, right? You can be an artist. You can create. You can help. You can support. You can build and still be profitable. And so for me, it came down to attracting the right people on the team that were more focused on the profit. Because if you left it up to me, because as you know, I want to have fun. I love people, and I want to give it all away. I want everyone to have it.
And this is you're talking about like a clothing store, like it was like a
I
hip
mean,
hop
everything,
clothing store, right?
I would say everything that I've done in my life, the way I make decisions in my life, I ask myself, am I going to have fun? That's the first thing. Like, is this going to be fun for me, or is it going to feel like work?
So let
Right?
me ask you that. Was that your motivating factor before your needs were met?
That well, there's crunch time, because there was a time where I almost lost everything, and that was not fun. So there's consequences to not having the right people on your team. And because it was something that just grew organically, and like there's stores now, I find myself with stores all across Canada, and I'm having a lot of fun, but I was lacking the people. I was lacking the foundations. I was lacking the infrastructure to support my vision, right? Because I'm a visionary. I'm an artist in some ways, and without having the proper team in place, you don't have the right foundation. Things start to, things will crumble. Like the fall of Rome or the fall of any empire. The second that people start, if you don't have a proper foundation, things fall apart.
So
And
can
so,
you I don't want to interrupt you. I want you to finish your thought, but I want to direct it into this question. Like, can you think of a pivotal moment when you went from I don't have the right people around me to I absolutely do have the right people around me?
well, when I was 24 years old, I'd moved to Miami, and I'm living in Miami. And again, I'm having a lot of fun in Miami. I had this idea that I wanted to build my company in the U.S., and that was the ticket, you know. But I really just went there to, like, I don't know. I didn't achieve what I wanted to achieve. In fact, I actually did the reverse, because my accountant was calling me, there's a mess, you owe taxes, this and that, things are falling apart. And so at 24 years old, I had to, suck it up, go come back to Canada, and then have my accountant tell me, like, you should probably go bankrupt here, right? Like, this is doesn't look good. And so at that moment, I realized that even though my vision took me so far, it was all going to fall apart unless I did something about it. And the very first thing that I did was I got educated on finances. And then I realized that, first of all, I was not managing my business correctly. And so it took about 4 years to rebuild. And now, with being very intentional about business, bringing on the right people to, run a lean operation, still have fun, but also be profitable. And
Did you
so,
have less fun or more fun than once you were more profitable?
well, it's tough at first to be in a box, right? Because they're like, oh, because I am an artist, I am a creator, and I don't want anything to get in the way of building and creation. But there is a bottom line, and it doesn't have a future if you can't think about the infrastructure. And so there's people that say, well, okay, you want to throw this party, for example, this event, and it's great for the people, but this is the budget. And so how can you make it work within that budget? And so I'm 24 years old. I was 24 years old at the time. And so these are the things that I had to learn how to make compromises. And then when I did, and then I saw the longevity, right? Because the success was very short-lived when it was only about the vision and only about the art. But once I got the right people together, there's longevity, and I can have more fun. And now the things that I'm doing now are like incredible, right? The communities that I'm building, the portfolio that I'm building, the impact that I'm having, it's much greater because I was able to now be supported by a team, right?
Right. And I,
And so,
I feel like you're kind of like speaking on my behalf in a way, because for the decade that I was playing music and I was a professional musician, that was my profession.
well,
I was.
that's why we get along.
Yeah, absolutely. I was all about integrity of the craft. And I wouldn't make decisions that would be financially for my best good, because I had this story inside of myself, or this identity where, a real artist doesn't necessarily have to struggle, but focuses on the craft, playing the music, writing the music, being an artist. At the time I was studying people like Jim Morrison and Jimi Hendrix, and these people were in their music. They embodied it fully. The part that I missed was that they had a support team,
Yeah.
right? I thought I'm doing it by myself. And one thing that I'm always wondering is like how significant, and I think I know the answer to this, right? Like, I don't know, of course you and I, we know what our relationship is, right? But, maybe you don't know how impactful you were on my life, because I was looking for a mentor, Alfonso, for years before I saw you speak for the first time at Invest Ottawa. And of course, I harassed you on Facebook for a long time before you even responded to me, and I had to like work with Facebook algorithms just to get your attention. You know what I mean? But eventually you said to me, hey, how come every time I look at my Facebook, it's just you? And that's very interesting. Like I'm very compelled, and we had a conversation, and since then, I like to call you my friend. You're definitely my mentor, and I absolutely love what you've created, and I'm a big, very happy to be a part of it. WealthGenius. It's there on your shirt, it's there on your bottle there. But how important was your mindset getting through the time that was a struggle, carrying through that learning curve time where you're living in that box, and then carrying you to the point now where you're saying, I have longevity. I'm creating the community that I didn't know I wanted when I was a kid, right? Because you're saying it now. Yes, you're in real estate. And a lot of young people wouldn't think real estate is an art. It's not a creative industry, right? It's boring. It's not colorful, And here you are sitting there, and I believe, you're dealing with, like you said, hundreds of units. We frequently talk about millions and millions of dollars, and you're able to sit there and say, I'm a creator, I'm an artist, so how important, and what's the continuity of your mindset, and what's been the shift in those different phases of your growth?
Well, you know that I'm big on expansion. I live I need to be in consistent expansion. And if I feel like I'm contracting, something doesn't feel right. Okay. With expansion comes people, because where you are right now, and whoever's going to watch this, if you're taking notes, and if you're getting results in your life right now, and you have goals, everyone has goals. The missing piece, the gap, is always people, community, team members, people on your team, staff, investors, tenants, everything. It's always people. And so my art is in cultivating people, right? And so the second I get on, when I get on a phone with a tenant, or you know, a staff member, or an investor, or someone that is part of my community, where my mind goes is like, I need to make this person better, because I'm a leader of leaders. And so, as we continue to grow our business, and we're talking about real estate, you said it's not colorful. It's, to some people, they're like, well, it's kind of dry. I mean, my 16-year-old, I talk about real estate all the time. She's like, that, okay, that's okay, but you're kind of too excited about
Let's do a dance, Dad.
but that's what it is. But to me, it's art. This is the biggest art form there is, because it's all about people. And my art is in cultivating people, helping people get the most out of the like, finding the best out of people and bringing that out. And that I'm going to be the same way with my investors. I'm going to do that with the people here that work with me at the Quadra group of companies. Like, everyone that I surround myself, I need to think about, how can I make them better? What's in it for them? And what's in it for them? Everyone has their own whys. Everyone has their own goals. And if I can help enough people achieve that for themselves, my stuff will be automatic. And so I tend to attract a lot of the things that I have, because of that mindset. Because that's the mindset that I take every time I pick up the phone. Right here on this call right now, who's ever listening, my mindset is, how can I provide value to the people that are listening? How can I impact? How can I create? How can we become? How can I attract?
Well, for me, that's beautiful, by the way. And there's a few things that you said that I want to talk about. But for me, it's about extracting information in a tangible and clear way from you that's a little bit different, hopefully, than other people have heard. And you talked about attraction. I think we'll get to that a bit later. But on that note, and about people, I know that you work very closely with your significant other, and so do
Mhm.
I, right? And I want you to talk about that, because there's this, what I think is a myth out there, that you can't keep it healthy in a relationship to build an empire, right?
Yeah.
Everyone's talking about, you got to build your empire, find your queen. And then there's this myth that's permeating. And I think it's out there, and it's just preventing people from trying, because they're scared of the dissonance and the conflict that could come up. But I really want you, and tell me about this, but I'll tell you what my opinion is. Like, when you're doing something that's so viscerally a part of your dreams and who you are, there's no better person to work with on this earth than the person that you love the most and who you spend the most time with. And there's a lot of people out there right now in the space who are advocating for this, right? One of my favorite, he's a younger gentleman. He's in his 30s. His name is Alex Hermosi, right? He's got this book, $100 million offers, and he's an internet marketer. And him and his wife built $100 million business in just a few years. And he talks about how at one point he had to take his wife and put her in a different part of the business so that they could have different conversations over dinner. Because if they worked so closely together all day, they wouldn't have anything to talk about. And I'm wondering what you think of that. And I'm wondering what you can say to our viewers, about working with someone that you absolutely love and what that's like.
That is the best. I mean, if you can find someone that it's your partner in life and in business and in all things, to me, that's the ultimate, right? Because I've had past relationships where, my significant others in the past were not really interested in what I was doing. And so, you're making moves, I'm expanding, and then you come home and the conversations are not exciting, right? They're low level conversations. Not that the people were low level, but I'm like, I just closed $100 million deal, but I got to talk about, you know, uh, you got in a fight with your coworker, for example. And so for me and Helene, uh, we wanted to build a life that was for us, and it could be a situation where when you watch basketball and the guy throws an alley oop and the guy is right there, and you're like, how did he know? How did he know he was going to do that? It's because these guys play all day, every day together. They read each other. They feed off one another. And two heads are definitely better than one. And a long time ago, we decided that we would divide and conquer. And so she is very much involved in the operations, and I'm very much involved in the acquisitions and investor relations. And so we're definitely in the place that we need to be. And I know that when I throw the ball up, she's there, right there to slam it, right? And so it's been an amazing working relationship in my life in the past uh 5 years that we've been together for 10 years, but in the past five, I would say, where we really kind of gelled and we kind of came into our own, we've been able to accomplish more than I'd ever even I never even dreamed of where I am today, because of that relationship, because of that really solid relationship. And I think it's important. And I see that you have that as well, Alec. I mean, it's it's
Absolutely.
it's beautiful. There, I would I always encourage that, even with my students. And if there's ever a situation where their wife, or or their husband is not involved, I'm like, just have them around, because sometimes people are just afraid of what they don't understand. But if you're trying to grow and the other person doesn't understand where you're at, what happens is you start to grow apart, right? And this is where people now, the focus is like, oh, we gotta save the marriage or save the relationship, versus let's go out and build an empire.
Yeah, I think absolutely it is the most beautiful thing. Like it also, there's no off hours, like we'll be lying in bed at night like, love you, like I can't wait to buy more units, or like, oh, this, by the way, I forgot to tell you this exciting thing happened, and like we're just about to close our eyes and then boom, we're talking for another hour. You know what I mean? So it's easy. I work from home. I live on a 200-acre farm, right? I have goats and chickens, and I've got a 2-year-old kid, and I still feel like I'm working 16 hours a day. And people come here and they're like, "What are you doing? Why are you always on your phone? Who are you talking to? Like, where did this person come over? Like, what was that about?" And I think like to really change the way that you look at what does it mean to create value, right? So
Yeah.
like, what is it to when you take time, and we talk about millions of dollars, and I really want people to watch this, right? Young people especially. I really want young people to especially to watch this and think, wow, these guys are talking about millions of dollars. I can't relate to that, right? But you say something that's brilliant, which is you have to separate time and money. Because when you talk about millions of dollars and you're making minimum wage or even $50 an hour, $100 an hour, right? That equates to tens of thousands of hours of your time, right? Whereas, like you said, you have a $100 million deal and you're all jacked up, and it doesn't equal, right, hundreds of thousands of hours of your time. So
Mhm.
how important is it to change the way you see value, and how, again, over time, because now I think you're in your mid 40s, correct, right? And I'm 30 years old, but I'm thinking like people that are going to watch this who are 15 years old, 18 years old, 20 years old, and how are they going to shift the way that they see value so that they can contribute and create massive value in this world and benefit the most from what we're saying?
So, first thing, you have to study. You have to study money, and then you also need to understand what is your relationship with money, right? How do you feel about money? And however you feel about money, it's probably part of your paradigm. Maybe your parents, your grandparents, or you know, there's obviously there's a they've all contributed to your paradigm. Like, let me give you an example. Like, back home in El Salvador, my mom had a map of San Salvador, the capital of El Salvador, where it tells you where all the good restaurants are, where everything, where the map is it's a perfect map. It's a perfect map. But they take that map and they come to Ottawa or somewhere in North America, and you pull out that map and you're like, "Where's the Starbucks? I don't see it on here." And you're like, "Well, this is a perfect map. How come it doesn't work?" Well, you're using the wrong map. And we are living through different times where at some point all of these things that our parents were teaching us, like save money, go to school, get a good job, buy a house, invest in mutual funds, served its purpose back at a time where that map, that operating map, that operating system was functional and it was actually going to help you. But times have changed, and we are living in on an economic planet. We're more globalized, and things move a lot faster. And so, if you are using the same map that your parents used, you're going to be in big trouble. And so, what is the relationship that you have with money? How do you feel about money? Do you feel it's hard to make? And like our parents said, "Oh, we money doesn't grow on trees," or we can't afford it. All of these things
You
are in
think
the
I'm made of money?
yeah, like all these things are in the back of our minds, Alec, right? And we have to now come to an understanding where we got to check ourselves and say, "Hey, wait a minute, I do not have a positive relationship with money." This is why when I was 21, I made a lot of money, but it was gone. Just like a musician, he can make a lot of money and then it's gone, or a basketball player, or or a rapper, you know, because they're doing something. It's the equivalent of winning the lottery. But if you don't become and you don't shift your mindset, or you don't change something, if you're the same person, not only is the money going to disappear, but you'll be worse off than you were at the beginning of it. And you're going to say, "More money, more problems." And that's what everyone says, right? All of these things, goes into the mindset. And so, first of all, we have to understand the value of money. What is the history of money? What's the purpose of money here on this earth? And also understand that the most valuable asset that we have is time. And time is more important than money. But society says that you have to go exchange your most valuable asset for money. And so what ends up happening is 96% of the people out there end up pursuing this thing called money. And maybe they're not educated. And some people don't have financial literacy. And so because they're focused and fixated on this one thing that is called money, they will do stupid things to get that money. They will cheat, rob, steal, um, you know, hurt someone just to
Or
get.
give up? The stupidest thing
Yeah,
that they can do is give up.
yeah. But they're chasing the wrong goal, right? The goal should be time, right? How can we create more time? Money is just a tool, right? Money is just a tool to help you and to help you get to the place that you're trying to go. And money can help you buy time, right? With money you can buy someone else's time to give to create time for yourself. And so my idea with apartment buildings, okay, and this is where like it was like a big aha moment when I got this, when I understood the value of time. And you said something really important. Most people, uh, they view money in a very negative way, right? Because they associate X amount of dollars with X amount of time. For example, most people go to work, for 8 hours a day. They work for 40 hours a week for the next 40 years of their life. That time is what they associate money with, because they're like, "Oh, I got to work X amount to get X amount, X amount of dollars." And so the view that someone has on money is negative. right? That's the relationship that they have. I got to go to this shitty job and make money, and I got to be away from my family, the things that I love. And I hate that, right? Most people say, I hate my job. Like some people love their job and they have careers. That's great. But some people say, I hate going to this job every day in and day out, 8 hours a day or whatnot.
So I'm really happy you said that, because I really want to talk about attraction. And I also want to ask you this question about when you're just doing great things and you're creating massive value, right? What has happened to you where you've made money by accident, right? And this type of thing has happened to me. I remember I was selling shirts and I was selling things, and I had this old piece of furniture that I got for free on the side of the road. And one of my buddies' moms came to pick it up, and she said, "Oh, this is a crazy antique. I'll give you $500 for this." And I was not expecting it. I didn't work hard for it or anything. It took me 10 minutes to take it, drag it off the street, rub it with Lysol wipes and put it in my living room. You know what I mean? At this time, I must have been 21 years old. So like, what was the thing, once you're attracting your money into your life by being of value, right? What's some stories, or maybe a prominent story that you have where you made a lot of money by accident, or you had a successful venture that turned out infinitely more successful than you predicted?
It's only when you're not thinking about money, when the money is not the end result for you, right? And that's what I was kind of alluding to. Like, people go to a job that they hate to make money. That's how they associate. When you talk about thousands of dollars, they're like, geez, that's going to be very painful, right? But when you're doing something for fun because you love it, then things happen. Sometimes things will happen naturally. You're going to attract, right? Now, someone could win the lottery, right? That's a thing. That's a legitimate thing. Someone can win the lottery. That's a really fun thing that could happen to someone. The problem is, that's an opportunity that someone got, and so the universe, whatever it is that you believe in, wants to know if you're ready for that next step. But if you don't change your mindset, you will go back to the way you were before. And the way people make decisions are based on two things: gain pleasure or avoid pain. And so if someone has a bad relationship with money, and someone says, hey, and they're watching this interview, you can potentially, own $100 million building. Okay. If someone has a negative relationship with money, they will sabotage themselves. They will say, no, it's not possible. When someone says 100 million to someone that has a job, that's going to sound like a lot of pain to someone, right? And so who's ever watching this right now, whether they're 17, 27, 37, 47, 57, the age is really irrelevant. But what is the relationship that they have with money? And are they willing to change that and shift the mindset to allow themselves to even be in a situation where they can receive $100 million? Some people they wouldn't even know what to do with $100 million.
Yeah, well, I mean, of course, when we talk about $100 million, like, for example, the municipality in my area just invested, and there's a big sign, right, which they obviously spent a bunch of money on the sign, but they said, we're putting $10 million of infrastructure into this area. And I'm sure people are driving by that sign and thinking, wow, that's incredible, this area is booming. And then, you're asking, like, what would you do, or how would you get $100 million? We're talking about people that have written books about hundreds of millions of dollars. And to me, $100 million equates to how many people can you help? We talk about cost per unit sometimes in our conversations when you're thinking about real estate and something you want to buy. And there's like magic numbers depending on what your market you're in, where about $100,000 per unit is a really wonderful number. Sometimes you can see like this is an investment that's worth looking into, right? And so when you talk about $1 million, well, that's $100,000 10 times. So $100 million is like 1,000 people and 1,000 homes and 1,000 people that you can help, right? So you talk about people, and that's really important. I know that you're a speaker, you're a coach, you're a teacher, and you've been all over the world. I want to know, like, did you intend, at that time in your career where you were an entrepreneur and you're an immigrant, and did you intend to be who you are today, and did you intend to be a public speaker?
No, that was the last thing on my mind. Well, I shared with you my first entrepreneurial experience, selling, jeans and t-shirts for my locker in high school. I thought it would be pretty neat to live a life where I didn't have to go to a job, where no one would have control over me, and I can pay my bills and feed my daughter and give her a good life. I thought I was going to just have a regular business, and the business ended up expanding. Maybe it was because I was in the right place at the right time at the right, era with where I was able to see something that other people didn't see. But ultimately, there was opportunities in my life that I could not pursue because I was deathly afraid of public speaking. Okay? I could not get on a stage. I could not be on a on a live stream like this, going back to when I was 23 years old. My business was growing. It came to a time where I needed to step into the leadership, and I needed to become a leader, and I needed to, lead people, and I was unable to do it. I could not see myself ever being on a stage. And
And what were you focused on in your life when it happened?
when what happened?
When you were invited to become a public speaker?
Oh, so if you look behind me, there's a Reader's Digest article. So this Reader's Digest came out 2007, and it went all over the world. And people said, come and speak. Like we want to hear, we want to, we want you to talk to these people. They were paying money for me to go and talk about my business, talk about my life. And that was a big opportunity for me that I kind of didn't jump on, right? It was like, you know what? When is it? Oh, I'm busy. I had all kinds of excuses. But the truth was, I was deathly afraid of public speaking. And a lot of people that are watching this, they're scared. In fact, if you do your research, you'll see that the average person will prefer death over public speaking. And so I knew I needed to conquer this. And I had a mentor, and my mentor told me that the most valuable piece of real estate on the planet is not the buildings that I owned. The most valuable piece of real estate was the stage. Because from the stage, you can command a presence. From a stage, you become an expert. From the stage, you can start a war. From the stage, you can end wars. From the stage, you can create a vision. You can change. You can have impact. Like Martin Luther King, I have a dream. Like from the stage, you have ultimate power. And you can use that power for good, or you can use that power for evil. The person on stage will always get the business, will always get the investor, will always get the girl, will always get the promotion, will always get the raise every single time.
Well, it's funny you talk about the stage, because as a musician, obviously I was on stage, and I got to meet all kinds of fantastic people doing that. But you mentioned Martin Luther King, and you mentioned speakers who have started and ended wars, and that makes me think about history. And you mentioned your own mentor, and I'm wondering, like, if you had the chance, right, to sit down and talk to someone, maybe off stage, or maybe be in the front row and listen to them speak on stage, or maybe both, right? Who would that person be? And what lessons has that, maybe you've thought about this already, if not, take a second, but like, what kind of lessons would you want to learn from this person? And how have you tried to embody that? Knowing like we've had, we're in 2022, right? I think it's a Monday today. And there's been all this human history, this vast, long history. Much of it has been forgotten, lost, misconstrued, and like here we are, and we're standing on the shoulders of giants, right? You've heard that before.
Mhm.
So it's like we couldn't be who we are. We couldn't be having this conversation into this camera on this internet in front of what will probably be hundreds or maybe even thousands or tens of thousands of people, God willing, that get to see this conversation. And how did you move forward, right, from all of that history of humanity to who you are today?
And so your question was, who would I talk to? Who would I want to talk to that is a speaker?
Yeah. And
And
what would you want to take from that person and
mhm.
embody that in yourself and in the future?
Well, definitely like someone like Martin Luther King. Like where he had a vision like Obama was a result of Martin Luther King's speech, you know? And I would love an opportunity to just you know, get 10 minutes with him. Just like you have this vision where no one else believes is possible. Like you have this vision of the world, and when you look around, there's nothing that would say that your vision will come to life, right? And that's called impact. That's called having an impact on a society, right? This is called being transcendent, right? Like when you have a message that is going to live, it's going to be it's going to stand the test of time. Like Elon Musk has a vision, right? And he talks about his vision, and he won't even be alive to see his full vision. We were in Disney World 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, and you're walking in Disney World. This is a city, and you're walking. You're like, this was someone's vision, right? Were like they didn't even see how far it would go. And so, to me, that's extremely impactful, and to even connect with people of that magnitude, to me that would be so number one, educational, and I'd want to take things back to my community, and to have a bigger vision for myself and what I'm doing, and how I can have a bigger impact towards people.
And you're talking about imagination, right?
Hmm.
And at one point you said you could have never imagined being a public speaker, right?
No.
What kind of things are you imagining now for your future, and what kind of playful predictions can you make for people, humanity, the planet, maybe and
I like
beyond?
I like you said playful.
Yeah, let's be playful, right? Let's not we don't have a crystal ball. You say it all the time. We can't we don't have a crystal ball. We're not trying to say like, the markets are going to go up and down and none of those things. But what do you think the world's going to be like, your world and the world, in 5 years and 50 years?
Yeah. Well, I'm a big believer in building community, right? And the human beings are so talented, and we don't even realize it. And a lot of us just play the game so small. And if we can only you know, step into ourselves, our true selves, and tap into more of that potential, there would be like a renaissance on earth. And that comes from having time, right? When you have time, you have the ability to really focus on yourself and what is the value that you're going to bring to this world. And so when I was 30 years old, I was financially free. I didn't have to work a day in my life. I worked so much between 17 and 30. I dedicated my life to building a company. But when I was 30 years old, I realized that, you know what? what is my life purpose? What do I want to do with my life? And so what I wanted to do is help people achieve financial freedom, give them their time back so they can do amazing things and be fulfilled. Maybe you want to play more music, and if you had to go, if you had to go and to a job, a job, that would crush your soul, right? That would you would not be able to create the beautiful music that you can create. Some people want to be more involved with their church. Some people want to be more involved with their families. Some people want to raise tennis stars. I mean, there's so many things that human beings can create, and they can't because the society says you have to spend your time in an institution. We're trained that way from school, like bells and like go here, go here. It's like you're training robots, right? And so we're living through a time, in my prediction of the future, and you said playful, so we're being playful here. I'm gonna say that the ideal 9 to 5 is gonna be a thing of the past, and we're moving into a society where we're gonna be more in control of our time, and we're gonna create amazing things with this time, this newfound time that we all have. Right now, people are a bit confused. They're like, "Well, we got time, but we don't know what to do." Well, do whatever it is that makes you feel good and it's fun for you and gives you fulfillment, because life is about fulfillment, and you're not going to get fulfillment going to a job that you hate.
So I'm always curious about this, because I have people that I work with and that work for us. Here on the farm, we have some young employees, some older employees, like carpenters and all kinds of stuff. And you have people that you work with and that work with the Quadra group. So, how do you keep people, that are working a job and that are a part of your values and your mission and the things that you're trying to do? How do you keep those people from feeling the way that you're describing? And I'd like you to add to that, like, you were financially free at 30. I'm 30. I'm financially free. But like, what about the people who aren't? And they don't feel like they have hope, and they don't know what to do next.
Well, first of all, I would never have gotten to the point where I can be financially free if I didn't invest in myself. I almost lost everything because I didn't have any financial education. So whether you come and get that education from me or our platform, or you go somewhere else, you are going to need the education. But most importantly, you're going to need a community to support you to get you to the point where you're financially free. And so if you're 30 years old and you're not there yet, it's I mean, you still have time, but don't think you have too much time. Jump on YouTube, subscribe to this channel, follow me, get educated and connect with the people that have the results that you're looking for. Your second question, people that work, people
With
that
us,
yeah, people that work with you, how do you keep them? How do you
from
retain them?
feeling like their job is draining them,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So, I'm proud to say that, our company, it's not the best paying company. I'm sure anyone that works with us, it can go somewhere and earn 10 times more. I'm sure of it. What we do is we cultivate leaders. We give people ownership of what they have, and we create a company culture where they love to work, where people, when people come here, they love to come here. And that's the value you can provide for people. Ultimately, my idea is, instead of having employees 9 to 5, people are going to be more task driven, right? It's like, this is your task, do it however you want to do it. And and what our job as a company is to give you personal development, you know, mindset expansion, help you invest. You know, I love it when people that work for us start becoming entrepreneurial and start, you know, their own businesses. I'm a big promoter of that. I don't want to hold anybody behind. And then lastly, the best way to retain someone is give them a piece of the action, right? Partnerships or equity, right? So that, I mean, if you own something, you're going to be proud of it. You know, remember WestJet? We're not WestJet employees, we're owners, right? That's a different feeling. That's a different culture that you're cultivating versus someone that doesn't care, that is just going, that's just a job.
So how would that be similar or different to something you might say if you were to go back to yourself when you were 18 and maybe you've been selling stuff out of your locker for a while and you're about to get your first investment and get your first store going, right? And you're going to have, at some point, you're going to have someone working for you. You know, what would you say to that person?
I would say, Alfonso, it's all about the people. From where you are to your wildest dreams, wherever it is that you want to go in life, the gap is always people. I learned that later on in my life, but I wish I would have learned it earlier.
So the people that you have around you, you know, including you talked about your 16-year-old daughter, you talked about your first daughter that you had, you talked about Helene, you talked about your business, you know, you talked about the people that come in every day and they're thrilled, you know, even though it's not the highest paying place to be. And in often cases when people go where the money is, right,
The right people.
they're not feeling fulfilled.
Yeah.
Right? It's not, like you said, it's not the right intention
Yeah.
to go somewhere and try to
Or it's not the right fit. Like we don't fit them. You know, they don't resonate with, and people resonate with different people, but it has to be a match.
So would you say that's definitely, without a doubt, the most important lesson is about people? You know, if you had to impart, like, because in your book, right, from the ground up,
Yeah.
you talk about the 3-step process, and sometimes when you're teaching, you do this, and you often reserve it for the end. And I think it's because it's one of the most impactful things and insights that you have to offer. You know, so is it people? You know, I keep trying to talk about imagination. I keep trying to talk about how to move forward. You know, I like to think about time, you know, in a massive unit, you know, 10, 15, 20, 50 years, you know, so, you know, is it really people is seems to be a really major focus for you? But what about this 3-step process? You know, what can people do without money? You know, I've heard you say you can't tax dreams.
Yeah. So this 3-step process is my life's work. And it's this idea that you can change your life and live the life of your dreams in 3 steps. And I wrote about it back in 2010. That's the book that you're referring to. And it's called From the Ground Up. You're 3 steps away from living the life of your dreams. And it's a simplified notion. It's a short read, and it goes through my life and kind of how I got to where I am today, or back in 2010. And number one, you need to know what you want. That has to be clear before anything happens. You need to be clear on what you want. Most people don't know what they want. And so when we're talking about things that you want, they need to be specific and in detail. Number two, and this is where every book drops the ball, because they talk about goal setting. So learning and understanding and doing proper goal setting is something that is in every book, any personal development book. We read it all the time, but they never talk about number two, which is part of my life's work, and is becoming. Who is the you that is a direct match to everything that you want? And so whatever it is that you want, you have to be there's going to be a transformation. It's like a rebranding of yourself. And if you can envision, this dream life, there's probably a corresponding person that's a direct match to that life. And so it's all about becoming. Who are you going to become in order to be a match to those people? And for me, becoming was impacting people, inspiring people, leading people, right? And I needed to transform because, and this is actually a really good question, because I'm sitting here in front of this Reader's Digest article, okay? And I'm in my 20s, and Reader's Digest calls, we want to do an article on you, 7-page profile on your life. And to me, at that point, I was like, whoa, like Reader's Digest, the biggest publication in the world, wants to do an article on my life. To give you an idea, that for you to take out an ad in Reader's Digest, it would be like $100,000 a page. That's how much it costs. They're giving me a 7-page profile. And so the photographer comes to the store, and there's a makeup artist and the photographer, and I come out in my blazer. If you see behind me, I'm wearing my blazer, a black shirt. And he's like, no, we don't want you to wear the blazer. I'm like, no, why? He's like, well, we want you to put on the hoodie behind. So I was the creator of all that clothing behind me, and he wanted me to wear the hoodie. He's like, put on the hoodie. I said, I'm not putting on this hoodie. And at that moment, it was like a pivotal moment in my life where I had to fight for myself, because people were trying to push me back to who I was. But I was actually becoming. And in my mind, I was transforming. I wanted to lead people. I'm a CEO, and I'm not going to wear the hoodie. And the guy's like, well, if you don't put on the hoodie, no picture. I said, okay, let's pack up then. And then he's like, okay. And if you go online, look for this picture, you'll see that it's like the Mona Lisa, because I'm kind of smiling, but I'm kind of upset in a different way. Like there's something I'm upset about internally, because this guy was trying to limit me. And this picture has chased me all over the world, because at that point in time, I was becoming, and I wanted to be a leader to the people around me at that time. I wanted to stand for something. And I didn't want to be this kid with a hoodie, right? I didn't want to be what they saw of me. I wanted to portray what I saw of myself, the potential that I saw in myself. And so step number 1 is understanding what you want. Step number 2 is understanding who is the person that you need to become in order to be a direct match to that life that you want. And step number 3, which is the most powerful step, and we can talk about this all day. I mean, I've done trainings. I've done 3-day trainings just on these 3 steps. But it's about, once you understand who you need to become, you become that person now, this very second. The second you decide to become, that's when you have the power to move mountains. And the second this Reader's Digest hit the world stage, I was attracting exactly the person that I'm portraying in that picture.
Wow.
The second you decide to become, you start to attract the right people, the right circumstances, the right ideas, the right infrastructure, the right team members, the right deals, the right investors, the right everything to match the person that you've become. And so that is my life's work. But it does connect with leading people, because that was my becoming, right? My becoming is being an example to my community, my people, the people around me, young people at the time, and going through this transformation.
Wow, that's amazing. Thank you for that. I'm really glad you got to to explain it so clearly. I think people are going to want to go back in the video and rewatch that over and over and over again, because that was just, I've heard you explain it before, you know, but having the article there, it was almost like there was like this memory, this emotion, you
Yeah.
know, and that was very impactful. You've impacted a ton of people in your life. You've certainly had a massive impact on me and my life and my family. You know, I feel like super grateful that I've been able to like manifest and embody the person that I'm becoming because of the guidance and the coaching and the leadership that you provide. I want to know, what's the most impactful thing that someone has ever said to you?
I told you I had a fear of public speaking, and mostly is when someone steps on or when you're on a stage, you're vulnerable, right? In this interview, and I've always been that way. Like I want to be vulnerable to people. I just allow people to come in and they can see myself. I'm just me. But there's a lot of complexes that I had. My mom said you have to have an education. Without an education, you're nothing. Um, I have an accent, not so much now, but definitely if it'll come out if I'm tired, like my accent comes out. And so society says that you have to be this person. And so for me, I was deathly afraid of judgment. And judgment will be the one thing that will stop 80% of the people out there from trying. People don't want to try because of they're afraid to get judgment. And that's the society that we live on. TikTok, like now you try to take a picture with your kids. My kids need for the picture to be perfect because they're afraid of what other people are going to say. And that was the mindset. As I said, if I went on stage, people would know that I don't have a university degree, that I don't have I'm not from here. They could tell that I'm an immigrant. All of these things I felt extremely conflicted about, and this is why I always avoided stages. I said I never ever want to step on a stage. And so one day I said, I've had it. I got to do something about this. And I said, this will be my year of yes. And sure enough, the second I said that, someone called and they said, listen, we had a speaker back out. You're a local entrepreneur. Would you come and speak to our group of people? And I just said, this was my year of yes. I just made that commitment to myself. And now I can't go back. And so I said, okay, how many people? He said, about 40 people. I said, where is it? He's like, it's at this church. Now, it wasn't a religious event. They were just using the venue. And I said, when? He says, tomorrow. So I didn't even have a time to think about it. I just said, okay, yes, I'll do it. And so that night, I wrote the things that I was going to say. And, it was partly about my life and then my business experiences. And that was going to be the talk. I had this paper. I'm holding this paper in my hand. I drive to the location. I get out of the car. The lady comes out of the venue and she's running for my car. And I'm like, oh, shoot. Like, what's going on? And she's like, listen, there's a little bit more people than we thought. I said, okay. She's like, well, we're going to change it from the room that we had to the cathedral. I'm like, geez, how many people showed up? She's like, 400. 400 people. I said, what? And like now my heart started going ba-boom, ba-boom, ba-boom. And I said, geez, I can't do this. And she's like, no. You are all we have. You have to do it. I'm like, oh shoot, I've never spoken in front of more than 3 people in my life. Now I got it. Now there's 400 people in this cathedral. And so I followed her. They introduced me. I get on stage and my mind goes blank. I said, good morning. And there was acoustics and if you've ever spoken in a church, you know that the echo comes back to you. Whatever you say is going to come back to you. And it's so distracting that I say, good morning. And then it's like, it comes back, good morning. And then my mind just went blank, like blank, nothing in there, nothing in there. I didn't know what I was going to say. I ended up just looking at the people like this. Right. And then finally I figured out what I was going to say. And then I continued. And then, and then I kept going blank. I kept just staring at people like this. Right. I would say, yeah, this is where I'm from. This is what I'm doing. I look at people. This was my life. Da, da, da. I would just keep looking at people. And then in my mind, that self-talk was like, this is the most horrible experience that I've ever been a part of. I don't know why in the world people would ever want to do this for a living. This is crazy. No, who would want to go through torture like this? And there is a video of this, and it's in the vault, never to be released anywhere. But I was wearing a gray suit, and there was times that I would do this with my arm, and it was like just drenched, my back just drenched with sweat. There's these lights hitting my face, and I'm thinking like, oh my God, this is so horrible. And my mind just kept going blank. I'm looking for the exit, and I'm like, geez, I just want to like crawl into a little corner and never come out for the rest of my life. I will never, ever, ever do this ever again. This was a one-time experience. I've done it, checked it off the list. I am done. I am retiring. And this is what's going on in my head. Finally, the torture stopped, and I'm done. I'm going to make a quick exit. Thank God there's lights. I can't see people, 400 people. Thank God I just got to make a quick exit. And I was never here. And as I'm making this exit, there's this lady that stood up, and she ran across the aisle, and she was making a run for me. And I'm like, geez, I must have been really horrible. This lady's coming to slap me in the face, you know? And she stops right here. And I could see she was crying. And she said, your story changed my life. Your use of pauses were incredible. But she said, your story, legitimately, she was from Latin America, and she could identify with my story. And she said, because of you, I am going to start my business. And at that moment, I realized, and everything changed for me, from what I wanted to do with my life to how I was going to use my life in order to be an inspiration and help people live their best lives. I know that I was put here for a reason. And to me, that was the most impactful thing that anybody has ever said to me, because it actually, it's not about me. The public speaking, I thought when you go up there, it's about you. I learned that at that moment that public speaking is about the people that are listening to you. In my mind, when we're doing this interview, I'm thinking, who can I connect with? Who is listening to this that is going to resonate with the things that we're saying here? And as a result, they're going to be inspired to do something, take action, buy something, get education, find financial freedom because of something that we said here. And so that was the most, I guess, most impactful thing someone's ever said to me.
That's an incredible answer. I've definitely heard that story before. I love how you were able to just go through the whole thing and really tie it like a quick, beautiful bow at the end. You're talking about how when you're talking on the stage, you're doing your public speaking. It occurred to you, this is a failure.
Yeah.
I will never do this again. And you've also mentioned that you had your clothing business and you're in Miami and you're forced to come back to Canada because that was failing. And I'm curious, what's been your biggest failure since you became a real estate investor?
Whoa, I've had lots of failures. If anybody ever wants to invest with anyone and you would ask them that same question, has a deal ever gone wrong, or have you not returned exactly the money that you were going to return to your investors? And the answer you get from that person is like, no, everything has been hunky dory. It's been 100%. I would say, in my opinion, in my humble opinion, that's not the right person to invest with, because they haven't seen the ups and downs. They don't know how to react to the market shifting and corrections. You know, I've had the privilege. This is why they call me the Godfather, because I've been in this space for a long time, 23 plus years. A lot of the people that have gone through my training have started their own trainings, and people have stepped in their own spaces. And this is why people started calling me the Godfather, because pretty much when they were talking to people, they could kind of tie it back to me. And so the reason I am the Godfather is because I have failed, and things haven't, like my company hasn't gone right. I've had other companies. I was one day I was going to do a sleeve of all the logos, all the startups that I've started up, and I was going to be, I'm a product of my imagination, because I can cover my arm in different projects and ideas. I'm an idea guy, right? I'm a visionary. Every morning I wake up with $1 million idea, right? And so, I started all these things that failed, and the one consistent thing that was always there for me was the real estate, right? And real estate, if you buy it the right way, if you buy it with a long-term vision, it can be time will forgive your mistakes, right? And that's one thing about real estate that I love. But I've had deals go wrong. I've had situations where I thought I was going to be able to get the tenants out, and I couldn't, right? And all of that experience, 23 years, goes into every deal that I do, right? Because every time I have a failure, I don't look at it as a failure. I look at it as an opportunity that I've learned. I've learned a lesson. What is the lesson that I can get out of it, so I won't do it? And that's how I've been able to level up, to look at 14, 20 million, 30, $50 million deals. The reason I can look at a $60 million deal is because I know all of the steps. I've gone through every single step, and I've had situations where things didn't go my way, but I kept going.
Cool. I love that. I think, I have experiences where I'm waiving conditions too early, or I'm learning that I should have included a condition I didn't know, about some mechanical room issue, some electrical issue, and all these things. We've done things where we've had to pivot with our real estate. We had a plan A, and you find out plan A is no longer feasible. You need to take a loss, or you need to create a long-term vision.
Yeah.
Because one thing that I know you do, and that's one of the focuses of our business aside from development, is cash flow.
Yes.
Right? You buy the real estate, and sometimes there's a cash back or something, and you get paid on closing, and you get paid right away and forever. Yeah. And sometimes that just isn't feasible, and you have to know when to walk away. So I really appreciate this call, man. It's been super deep. It's been super thorough. I feel like every time we talk, I get a little bit deeper. I do have I'm going to ask 3 quick questions that are not about real estate.
Okay.
And I just want, I'm just trying to connect with people.
And I have a question for you before we're done.
Great. Do that first. Let's do that first.
Well, I wanted to talk about this relationship here with the Canadian Real Estate Channel, and kind of like, what's your vision with that? Because, you're taking over for this month. What does that look like? What can people expect from you? And, when should they tune in?
Well, it's all about the Canadian dream, Alfonso. You know, when and that kind of ties into one of my questions. But when I grew up, um, I watched a lot of movies. I love stories. And in fact, I'm so addicted to watching movies that now I'm doing my 90-day challenge where I'm creating new habits, and I will not be watching a movie for 90 days because it's getting in the way, because I'm addicted to learning about other people and learning about stories and connecting emotionally to all these people that have existed. And for me, Canada is the true land of opportunity. Before I dropped out of university, I was studying sociology, right? Which is something John Lennon studied. And of course, I was a musician and I looked up to John Lennon. I looked up to him as a poet, a writer, a visionary, someone who really, really made an impact on the world as a whole, consciousness, community, and of course myself. I'm sure you love some Beatles songs, and you know, he consciously talked about the song Imagine being a prayer that he wrote, and that song is the song that's been sung the most at the Olympics throughout history, right? So for me, it's about thinking about what can this huge piece of land that we call Canada offer humanity. And one thing we don't have in Canada that we have in the United States is as many cultural problems. I'm from Ottawa. You're from Ottawa. The one thing I love about Ottawa, aside from it being one of the greenest cities in the entire world, aside from it being connected to some of the most beautiful rivers in the entire world, some of the biggest rivers in the entire world, is the people. Playing music in Ottawa gave me the opportunity to connect me to every single culture, every single religion, every single nation. And I've had the privilege of walking. I used to live in Sandy Hill, right? There's students and diplomats. You're walking down the street and you see someone who's contributing to democracy in countries all over the world. And I believe that the entire world would benefit from having a home in Canada. We're resource rich, right? I live on a farm. I can walk outside and I can eat peas and apples and tomatoes, and I have wells here and there's water, and there's so much land in Canada. It's incredible. And when you talk about really, really ancient societies like China and India, where they have 1 billion people and we have less than 40 million people with all this space, right? My intention is to connect to all parts of the world with this channel and give them a way to come here and create prosperity and connect to our culture and create what I think is the future of this planet through globalization. You mentioned about the future. We don't have jobs. We don't have the 9 to 5. People can have entrepreneurial skills. They can be there in the future. And Jack Ma, one of the richest men in China, who created Alibaba, which rivals, of course, Amazon, and Jeff Bezos in America, he said in the future, people won't have to work. Elon Musk says that robots are going to take work, and without universal basic income, people won't have anything to do. And Jack Ma says something that I absolutely love, which is people can't do nothing. They're going to do something. And what they're going to do is they're going to dance more. They're going to sing more. They're going to cook more. They're going to create more theater, create more media. Right? I'm sure you know this, but Ottawa and Vancouver, they're animation hubs, right? Disney comes to Ottawa for talent. Netflix comes to Ottawa for talent, right? I truly believe, and I believe this before I was even interested in money, before I was even interested in investing, and before I knew that my impact in the world would be by creating infrastructure and creating a foundation for culture. Because not only did I stand on the stage, Alfonso, but I would often show up a day before to build the stage. And I know you know what that's like, right? I know you know what that's like, showing up somewhere and making sure that the setting that we're building in Canada, the setting that we're building for people, and we're talking about, we've got refugees coming. We've got programs where people from all over the world, educated, smart, caring, loving people from all over the world can come here and build their future. It's the Canadian dream. And I want to be able to offer that Canadian dream to every single person, billions of people in the world, and let them decide. Are they going to come here? Are they going to participate in the greatest transfer of wealth in human history? Are they going to participate in the future of humanity and culture through globalization? Are they going to participate in these conversations like this, where people are connecting and sharing and providing value? That's what I see for the Canadian Real Estate Channel. Soon it's going to be just the real estate channel, because I don't see borders. I don't see the nations on the map that some old folk drew a long time ago. What I see is young people growing up with access to infinite information, so much information that you could not possibly process a fraction of it in your lifetime. Did you know on a daily basis there's 60,000 songs uploaded to Spotify?
Crazy.
You couldn't listen to 60,000 songs in your entire life. You just can't do it, right? So I believe in birds of a feather.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it's not about reaching out to everyone. It's about giving them a chance, everyone, to connect with you and finding your tribe, right? I believe that neo-tribalism is a word that we throw around in our circles, and it's because of technology like blockchain and the Web3, where we're empowering the individual to be entrepreneurs for the rest of their life and live in their tribe and create their community and create their culture and create history that's rich for our children and 7 generations and beyond, for whether it's this planet or to infinity and beyond, as the Buzz Lightyear would say. So thank you for that question. I'm obviously very passionate about Canada and change, and I love the opportunity. I was very grateful to be invited to be a host on this channel. But I have 3 questions.
It's gonna be a good time.
Yeah, thank you very much. I had a great conversation yesterday about Waterloo. I would invite people to watch that. But I have 3 really quick questions I want to ask you. I just want to have a good time here. I want a funny story that your family would tell about you, right? What star sign are you? I'm an Aquarian. A lot of people that are interested in that type of thing can tell right away, oh, you're an Aquarian for sure. And I want to know, what are 3 movies, right? We talked about movies. I love movies. Mm-hmm. I intend to help people who write stories make really impactful movies in the future. 3 movies that you'd recommend. What sign are you? And what's one story that your family would tell about you and they couldn't help but laugh?
Well, one story that I'll share is when I came to, so back home, we go to school at 7 a.m. and we go home at noon. That's how it is back home. Okay, so here you go to school at 9, you go home at 3. Okay, back home there's no recess, so you go from you go straight. You go to lunch, you do your lunch. Well, there's some time that you can eat, and then you go home at noon and have your lunch at home. And so when I came to Canada, I couldn't speak English, and I was put into the school. I would go to school 9 a.m. At recess would come. I ate my lunch, and then noon would come. I would go home. I did this every day for months, and of course we didn't have a phone at home, and so at some point there's this liaison person. We couldn't speak English, so the teacher couldn't tell me that I'm not, like, where are you going every day at noon? I would just go home. And the teacher, finally, someone talked to the liaison person, the person that supports us, and he said to my mom, like, your son goes home every day at noon. School is good until 3. And so I guess that would be a funny story that my family would share with you, that I for almost over a month I would go home at noon when I first came to Canada.
Do you still go home at noon?
No, I actually don't have hours. I don't have official hours. I come and I work when I want to.
So I'm an Aquarian, and people somehow, my whole life, they just knew it.
Yeah.
They would guess. And I don't think I could guess what your
So
sign.
are we talking about your sign
Astrology?
or
Yeah.
your sign, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm a Libra.
Libra.
Yeah, so I believe in balance. Yeah, that's my sign, Libra. It's the scales. You know, I have it tattooed on my arm.
Beautiful. And 3 movies that you'd recommend to our audience. And you know,
That
we've got
hold on, that I would recommend or that I personally like.
okay, why not both?
Well, you know what? People are gonna really get to know me on this because I said to myself, you know what? If I'm gonna be having a conversation with Alec, we got to get real. So I want to be honest with the audience and I'm going to share something that nobody knows, but I'm a Back to the Future nerd, and haven't shared that on a podcast before, so this is exclusive. You're getting the exclusive here. But Back to the Future was the first movie that I watched as a kid at 7 years old in 1985, and back then, the only way you can watch a movie again is to go back to the movie theater. So I remember begging my mom to go back to watch Back to the Future. I think I might have seen it like 3 or 4 times in the theater. I was 7 years old, and so that's the first. Like, if you see my phone, you won't see it, but I have Marty McFly on my phone, and that's how much of a nerd I am. And I'm fascinated with future, and this idea that you can travel back in time, and if you mess up something in the past, it creates a change, that you create an alternate universe. And all 3 movies, I would say all 3 movies, I love all 3. And if you haven't watched that, and I'm going to assume that a lot of people watching this, they're in their 20s or 30s, or between 20 and 40, you probably haven't seen that movie. It's a great movie to watch. You can watch it with your kids, and all my kids, they love it. Every Christmas we have a Back to the Future marathon, and it's created a lot of memories in my family. And it's like we know when to laugh. We've seen this movie 100 times. So that's one of my favorite movies. Now the next one I would say that you're talking about recommending movies for people to watch. I like shows. I seem to be liking shows. I like Succession. It's a really great show. It shows about it talks about generational wealth, and if in this mixture of like pursuing something and not being there for your family, and what are the effects of that in the future when your kids are older and you're trying to create the succession plan, right? I love that show. And a third show or a third movie that I would watch or recommend, The Pursuit of Happiness. The Pursuit of Happiness, I've seen that movie so many times, and it gets me right here, as a parent, and someone like pursuing their goals and dreams, and having being determined to reaching those goals, because there's so much at stake. So those are the 3 very, very different movies, but
Well, I want to thank you for welcoming me to the Canadian Real Estate Channel. I want to thank you for being, I think of you as my friend. You're certainly one of the most
Sure.
impactful and supportive people I've ever met. And, I know that I can't reciprocate that to you, so I intend to pay it forward, to the rest of the world as much as I can. And I love that you brought up that these videos aren't for us. And of course, I really enjoyed this conversation, but I really was trying to pull out as much as I could, knowing that we could connect with a vast audience. And I remember the last time I was in the room you're sitting in, you actually have a little DeLorean figurine, and we were talking about how, maybe one day, and I'm sure it's not a financial barrier at all. It's kind of like Gary Vaynerchuk. He wants to buy this sports team or whatever. And they're like, you have the money. It's like, no, it's not about that. Maybe one day you'll get a DeLorean.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I'm waiting for the electric the electric version of it,
Yeah, I can't wait to see you pull up in a DeLorean
which is coming.
to maybe the next Expand conference.
Yeah.
I'm honored that we got to talk. We went well over the time that we were supposed to do, which I suspected would happen. You know, I know you and I could talk
Yeah.
forever, as you said, and you know, I'll let you sign off on this. You always tell us that you love us, and you know I love you, and I hope that the people watching this really feel loved.
Yeah.
Right, and they feel that your intention and the reason, and I think you wake up, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you wake up and you think and you operate with, how can I provide love and value to the people around me? Thank you for being who you are, and I'm just so excited for the upcoming month.
Alec, you're gonna rock this stage, and you're gonna provide value, guys. I'm the Godfather. Check out our videos. Alec is here. We're all here. Alfonso loves you, and we're gonna see you at the top.
Bye, love ya.
Bye bye.
A purpose powerful enough will make you unstoppable.